Can the Straw Hat Pirates escape Punk Hazard before the entire island is engulfed in poison? Find out in my review of One Piece episode 618. Unfortunately, I really just don't have too much to say about this episode of One Piece. It's another one of those episodes that tends to pad out the plot a little bit, and really this episode was divided into the classic A-B storyline, and the A story of this week was essentially getting to see all of our characters make their way to the middle of Punk Hazard so that they can escape. You have Luffy, you have Smoker, you have Trafalgar Law, Nami, even Brook, who brought along Kinemon, who happened to be touched by the Shinokune gas, and because of that, he is now covered in all of that poisonous ash, and he's basically the first clue to show that there's probably a good chance they're going to be able to save a lot of these characters from the Shinokune gas. How that's going to happen, I don't know. My guess is that maybe Chopper will be the one to save them, seeing as how he's the Doctor. But still, it's really all up in the air, and really we have all of our characters who have converged on this one single point, and Luffy who is waiting for the remaining members of the Straw Hat crew to make their way to the middle. And there's quite a few of them who aren't there yet, so the tension has started to build just a little bit. Another thing I like about this scene is that Usopp is actually being very useful. He's able to help Chopper and Mocha and all the other Marines make their way to the middle of Punk Hazard, because he's still in that one control room, and he's still trying to convince all of Caesar Clown's underlings that they basically were screwed over, and they're still like crying about the entire situation. They need to get over that shit. But the most interesting part of this episode is definitely the second half, when we get to see that a few of Doflamingo's underlings are making their way to Punk Hazard, and there are a few that we saw a couple episodes ago. There's Baby 5, who is essentially this chick with a lot of guns, and then we have Buffalo, who is this really, really huge guy who has a very large and imposing appearance, very One Piece-esque as well. And I like his design just because of how crazy it is. I like that he has Doflamingo's Jolly Roger on his teeth. That's just really unique. But he also has this really crazy ability where he has like this sort of strange beard that he's able to use like a propeller, like on an airplane. So both him and Baby 5 are able to like fly across the ocean, which is just ridiculous. But you know, it's One Piece. These things happen. And we learn a little bit more about their characters as well. We know that Baby 5 essentially just can't say no to anybody. And this includes the fact that she's had apparently a lot of fiancés that Doflamingo has actually killed over the course of time. And apparently her standards are pretty low. But there's even a funny scene where Buffalo is asking for $2 million, and she's like, oh, well, I guess that's not that big a deal, and all he wants to do is waste it all on gambling anyway. Point is, they make their way to Punk Hazard, and apparently he has this ability where he can blow a lot of the poison away, and they get to see that there's this one ship that's down there, and they actually see Caesar Clown slam into the ship, so he definitely flew a really, really long way, and they can actually see that on the ship is also Frankie in his giant Shogun robot form, and this is kind of where the episode closes, and I really wish it didn't, because obviously the next episode looks like there's going to be a really intense battle between the Frankie Shogun robot and against Baby 5 and Buffalo. This was a decent episode of One Piece. There were some positives. It is finally moving the story along towards the end of Punk Hazard, which I'm liking to see, and of course it just featured a lot of those crazy character designs by Oda, which just infest the entire series. There's also a scene with Doflamingo, which is pretty interesting. He's still pretty confident in the fact that they're going to be able to get Caesar Clown back, and as long as they're able to capture him again, they'll be able to produce the SAD, so this is still a lot of really big development in this episode, but honestly, it just moved a little bit slow, and it wasn't the most exciting episode. One Piece fans are really the only ones who are going to be able to get anything out of this episode. If you're planning on jumping into the One Piece fandom, this is definitely not the episode to get into, just because there's just so many weird things going on, and the pacing was just a little off. But it looks like next week's episode is definitely going to have a little bit more action. It looks like the animation is going to be slightly better, and frankly, I can't wait to see Frankie do something awesome. I think he's one of the more underplayed members of the Straw Hat crew, and he's definitely one of my favorites, so I can't wait to see what he can do more in his giant robot, because that's one of the coolest things in the series. So, otherwise, not that great of an episode. You know, I really can't give this thing any more than a 6 out of 10. I know that's pretty low, but honestly, not that much happened, and there really isn't any much more I can elaborate on. So this wasn't the greatest episode of One Piece, guys, not gonna lie. But if you did follow this week's episode, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, maybe what you're hoping to see in some of the later episodes, and how do you feel about the crazy characters that are Baby 5 and Buffalo? You can let me know with your comments below. Remember, guys, before you leave, make sure and give this video a thumbs up. Absolutely one of the best ways to support our videos. So, I will see you next time, guys. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.